Okay, now I'd like to talk to you about some ways that even though technically your harness may fit, if you don't adjust it properly, it won't function well. So starting in the beginning again with the breastplate, this is what's called a Super V. It has a deep curve where her windpipe comes out of her chest and then curves up over her shoulders so that it clears the windpipe and the point of her shoulder. Another choice, and we'll take this one off, is a breastplate that's straight across the front. So you can see there's no curve in it. Because of the way this pony's built, her windpipe still clears it, and it clears the point of her shoulder, so she would probably be comfortable with this, maybe not in hard work like a marathon, but for pleasure recreational driving. Then the other choice you have with your breastplate, this buckle where the traces attach can be fixed like that, or it can be on a ring and it moves. So we'll take this one off. And I'll just hold this up and show you that this can swivel down or up depending on where the trace is attached to the carriage. So those are just some niceties to look at as you're selecting your breastplate. Probably the most common harnessing error that I ever see, whether I'm judging or just teaching people, they want to put their saddle too far forward up on their horse's withers. And it is not built to go there. It's not comfortable for the horse for it to be there. If you do your girth up when the saddle is too far forward, you've practically got the girth in their armpit by their elbow, which makes it harder for them to be comfortable moving their front leg. So compare this being too far in front with where the saddle actually needs to sit at the base of her withers. And look at how much more room there is here that prevents her from being pinched behind her shoulder. Okay, the other thing you want to think about with saddles is the width of the saddle needs to be proportionate to the pony or the horse and the carriage you're using. This saddle would be for a smaller animal. It's not as broad as this one, or it would be sufficient for a pair or for a four-wheeled carriage. Then the padding of your saddle needs to provide a nice smooth flat surface that clears her withers, and this one you can see the padding doesn't flow quite as smoothly on the saddle. You also need to make sure that your crupper is the correct diameter for your animal's tail. This brown crupper fits comfortably, it has a smooth surface, it won't pinch hairs or pinch her tailbone. If I try to put this little black crupper on, you can see that it's way too small for this pony. The buckles are close to her tailbone, and it will pinch and rub if I try to use it. Okay, if your back strap is too long, it will make your crupper droop, which is not a favor to your animal. It will rub and not do its job of keeping the saddle in place. When you have your back strap properly adjusted, you should have a little bit of play in it, but you don't want it pulling the back of the saddle back. if I have this too tight, you can see that it pulls the saddle back and also has pulled up on her tail, which is going to be very uncomfortable, and it will rub also. Okay, the next adjustment that is quite important is your breeching, because that is the brakes for your carriage. Your breeching wants to be somewhere on this flat part of your horse's hindquarter muscle so that they can put the whole weight of their hindquarters into it when they're slowing the carriage down. If it's too high, when they put weight in it, you risk it rising up to their tail, which is a really good excuse to kick or bounce. If it's too low, you risk pushing their legs under them as they try to slow the carriage down. The other adjustment on breeching is the snugness. A good rule of thumb, when you have your holdbacks attached to your shafts and the horse is put to, you should be able to get the side of your hand in between the horse's hind leg and the breeching. If it's too snug, when they go to move their hind leg back, they'll be restricted. If it's too loose, it will take a while for the breeching to engage so they can slow the carriage down, and it'll end up slapping them in the rear end when it finally engages. As with most of your straps, your working hole should be the center hole. So I've got 3 holes above this and 3 holes below where I can make my adjustments to tighten the girth if she's lost weight, let it out if she's gotten a little hairy and fluffy in the winter, and that gives me plenty of adjustment for what I need. When you're adjusting your false martingale, you want to make sure it's not too tight so that it's digging into your horse's chest muscles when the breast collar takes up the weight of pulling. So you need to be able to put a hand there so there's some slack, because as they move forward and start to use their shoulders to pull, it will take up more space. So the main difference between your riding bridle and a driving bridle are the blinkers. And there are several spots where you need to adjust your bridle so the blinkers can do their job. First off, the brow band should be long enough so that it doesn't pull the crown piece back into their ears. When you look at your blinkers, they should be centered on her eyes, both from the front and also from the side, so that she can't look over or under them. Your blinker stay should have wire in it to hold those blinkers away from their eyes and eyebrows. Otherwise, we'll be gentle. You restrict their vision and irritate the eyebrows. Your nose band, one of the main purposes, is to keep the cheek pieces from gapping and the blinkers pulling away from the eyes so that they then see behind themselves and you lose the effect of the blinkers. There are many types of nose bands, but this basic nose band should be placed below the point of this cheekbone so it doesn't rub, and it shouldn't be tying their mouth shut. So you'd like to get a finger underneath. Then your curb chain, again, to double check, you want to make sure it's flat, and realize that when you put the curb chain on, before you've added the reins, it may seem loose to you, but when you add the rein contact, it immediately snugs the curb chain up.